I met my husband when we were in our early mid-20s. We've been together for going on 14 years. From the time we met, it was
Hey friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for clicking. Kindly subscribe to this beautiful channel. So in today's topic, we are talking about regretful wives. These are stories and reflections from women who looked back on their marriages and realized things did not turn out as they expected. Now, this is not about shaming anyone. Life is complicated and relationship even more. But sometimes hearing about these stories can help you reflect on your own choices and learn. So, you guys have put the videos together so that you watch and learn. And I'll be back to share my choosings, what I think about today's video.
I met my husband when we were in our early mid-20s. We've been together for going on 14 years. From the time we met, it was clear that we were both dealing with mental health issues, and our relationship has been tumultuous at times. We've been in and out of therapy, both individual and couples, many times over the years. I feel that I have come to understand a lot of my struggles. I work toward managing the effects of childhood trauma and my attachment issues, and although these things are ever present, over the past few years of life, I have felt level, stable, and happy. I worry this will never be the case for my husband, and over the years, the seriousness and gravity of his issues have become more and more apparent. From what we can tell, he has obsessive compulsive disorder, generalized anxiety disorder, and some mishmash of personality disorders, including borderline personality disorder. Altogether, these conditions can cause him to be obsessive, paranoid, defensive, and delusional. We live in a cycle in which, as his stress builds, his symptoms get worse and it all ends in a giant blow-up on his part. During these blow-ups, he often accuses me of doing or saying things that I didn't do or say, that I don't love him anymore, or that I'm trying to actively hurt or sabotage him. He will often yell at me and say things he doesn't remember saying later. It is a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde situation. He becomes a completely different person. These episodes act like a reset for him, and usually he's back to baseline for a while before his stress and overwhelm starts to really rise again. Before I understood this better, I had talked to a peer support group when I was in school, and they had described it to me as the cycle of abuse. Though I do feel that it is ultimately abusive, now that I know more about the specific disorders, I do genuinely believe that he's not doing this to scare or intimidate or control me. It is truly symptoms of delusions that he doesn't have control over. This is kind of where my dilemma seems to lie. I love this person, and the majority of the time he is a good partner. He is very aware that he has all of these problems, except during the times when he becomes so overwhelmed that the delusions take over. He goes to therapy and tries his best to manage all of his stressors and recognize when he's starting to obsess or make up scenarios in his head. Despite his efforts, so far he hasn't been able to prevent these blow-ups from happening, and they are still a fairly regular occurrence in our life together. I'm realizing this is something that may never stop occurring. Every time that one happens, I'm angry and resentful that I just kind of have to absorb it. We will usually have a debrief afterwards where we go through what happened. I'll tell him what he said if he doesn't remember, and he will apologize and take responsibility for his actions. But the hurtful things that he says were still said, whether or not he meant them. The fear and anxiety I feel when I know that one of these outbursts is coming is very real to me. The isolation that comes with not feeling able to openly talk about this experience is real. I do have a couple of close friends that I've disclosed this to, and I know that I can talk to them, but I don't want to regularly burden them. Lately, I've been wishing that there was some kind of support group for partners of people with borderline personality disorder. If anyone knows of such a thing, I would love to have that information. There have been times over the years when I have almost left this relationship, and times more recently when I've thought about leaving. It's hard to imagine our life being like this and having to go through these things forever, for the rest of my life. If I could go back, I don't know if I would have started this relationship. My husband, as I said, is a good partner. He goes to therapy. He's deconstructing patriarchy. He listens to me and respects me. We've been through a lot together and have accomplished a lot together. I love him, I believe that he loves me, and I feel loved by him. I don't know if any other partner could be more of what I value. But I also often don't feel considered by him. I often feel like our relationship revolves around him and his issues. I feel that a lot of my energy will always be needed to help stabilize and support him. I suppose if I have a message for other women, it is this. If there are mental health related red flags early on, don't assume that they can be fixed or that they will be resolved. Imagine that you will have to contend with them throughout your entire relationship, and decide if you want to do that before you decide to invest years of your time and energy or make a commitment like marriage.
I've never hated another person more than I hate the person that I married. While I run my ass off and I do everything for everybody in my life, like me, my kids, him, he goes to work and works enough. That's it. He works.
Her story is a cautionary tale of the inherent risk involved when you decide to become a stay-at-home mom, when you decide to become financially reliant on your partner. And I want to say, I know that for many families, there is no choice, right? Women are being forced out of the workforce due to the cost of childcare. Not everyone has the choice of whether or not they can remain in the workforce or not. But when a woman decides to become a stay-at-home parent or is forced to become a stay-at-home parent, there is inherent risk, right? She's sharing her experience of this toxic, awful marriage and her partner who is truly failing her and her children in so many ways. And oftentimes when women share this experience, people will say, well, why didn't you leave? How come you didn't leave? Why did you stick around? If it was so bad, you've been together for 12 years, why did you stay? And she shares that the reason she stayed is because she simply did not have the means to leave. She could not financially afford to leave, because this is what so many people find themselves in, right? Even if they do have a job, if they're going to leave, they need to pay for their own housing. They need to pay for childcare. They now need to do everything on their own financially. Or if they don't have a job, now they're in this place where they need to find a job. They need to find a job and housing and the money to be able to afford childcare so they can have the job. But without childcare, you can't get a job. And without a job, you can't get childcare. So what are they to do? Right? They don't have the means to leave. And there's this weird assumption that women can just leave and they'll have the family support or friend support or support of a community. And that's just not the case for so many women. And her story really is a cautionary tale, because when we enter into marriage, every time you enter into marriage as a woman, there's inherent risk involved, right? Marriage isn't always good for women. We know that women are the ones who are financially punished for having children, for being married. And so entering into marriage is just risky in general. But when you enter into marriage and then you become a stay-at-home parent, there's more risk involved financially, right? And it is really detrimental to women who are specifically in these toxic relationships because they can't get out. And that's a really, really difficult place to be. And so when women like this share their stories, I think it's important to heed their caution, right? Like understand what they're telling us, listen to them, and plan accordingly. If you are a stay-at-home parent, that is by no means the wrong choice. Like, I support anybody who wants to stay home with their children. I think that's amazing. But I do think there needs to be a level of financial security. You need to have access to your own money, your own savings. You need to be able to financially support yourself should you need to. I think it's really important to keep a foot in the door if you can with a career, if you ever had one, or if you think you might go back. That way you can re-enter the workforce to support you and your children. I think there are so many things to learn from stories like this. And this is not to discourage women from being stay-at-home parents, it's to equip you with the information you need to make sure that if ever you find yourself in a situation like this, you are able to support yourself and your children and put yourself in a place that is not toxic, right? And is good for you all. Because unfortunately, this woman has been in this relationship that is not only detrimental to her, but also to her children.
I am a 29-year-old female who has been with my husband for 9 years, coming up on our 3-year wedding anniversary. We met when I was 21, he was 25, and we were both in the last year of college. I had only spent 6 months of my adult life not in a relationship and thought I knew who I was and what I wanted in a partner. I was immediately drawn to his intelligence and sense of adventure. I am now contemplating divorce. We have lived in several states together, moved to a different country for a year, and moved up to Alaska last year for him to pursue his passion, despite it taking a significant toll on our finances and removing me further from my family. Yes, I wanted adventure and not to settle physically in one place, but all these moves have been compromises, and neither of us are truly getting what we want out of them. Because I found my husband so young, I have never had the space or time to figure out who I am and what I want. There is always this influence intercepting my decision-making, and I find myself settling for jobs and opportunities that are just okay and not fully satisfying. As we are growing older, I feel like we have grown apart. We are wildly different people, and the love that we once had is not the same, if there at all. I feel like all my good years are behind me and that it's too late to start over. I don't believe that there is a rubric or a checklist of qualities for finding your partner, but I feel like I was not ready to commit so fully to someone without spending time figuring out what I want to do. I didn't listen to the advice of finding yourself first, and I've never felt so lost and isolated. I want to assure the person that wrote this that 29 is not too late to start over, and your best years are definitely not behind you. Your best years are ahead of you. I can assure you of that. And I can also tell you that as you grow in age, who you are and what you want will continue to change and evolve. So that's going to be a moving target that you're going to have to keep figuring out every decade. It's never going to stop changing. You are going to keep changing. So you're going to have to do that work of figuring out who you are and what you want continuously through your whole life, whether or not you have a partner. So you can start doing that now. You can be married and do that now. You can divorce and do that now, but you can do it and you have plenty of time. You are still so young.
So that's the video, guys. So I'm just here also to share my choosings, what I think about this video. Okay. So there are a lot of stories which are going on TikTok about regretful wives. They regret marrying their husbands. Okay, after they get married, they're now regretting. So one thing I hear a lot is that many women went into marriages with expectations that simply were not realistic. There's the idea of a perfect partner who will always understand you, provide for you emotionally and financially, and never change. But life is not a fairy tale. For some, the reality of marriages, bills, responsibilities, and the monotony of day to day life can hit hard. Okay, so there's also ignoring red flags. Another regret that comes up is ignoring red flags. During the dating phase, love can be blinding, right? Maybe it's his temper, his lack of ambition, or even how he treats other people. Some women think, oh, marriage will change him, but more often than not, marriage amplifies those issues rather than fixing them. So there's also losing themselves. Then the regret of losing yourself. It's easy to fall into a trap of becoming just a wife or just a mom. Your identity gets shadowed by the roles you take on. And before you know it, you don't recognize the person in the mirror. Many regret not carving out time for their hobbies, families, or even their career. And some of the women they're now settling for less. Settling is a huge one. Some women marry because they feel like time is running out or because the society pressures them to. They think he's good enough, or at least I would be alone. I won't be alone. But years down the line, they realize they deserve more than good enough. They deserve a partner who truly aligns with their values and aspirations. So there's also compromising too much. Compromising is necessary in any relationship, but there's a fine line between compromising and sacrifice. Some women regret giving up their dreams, their career, or even their boundaries to keep the peace in their marriages. Over time, that resentment builds in hard to come back to that. Staying for wrong reason. Finally, the regret of staying when they should left. Whether it's because of kids, finances, or fear of judgment, some women say marriages that are toxic or unfulfilling. And while every situation is different, many look back in which they had the courage to prioritize their own happiness. Now I want to clear marriage can be beautiful, and these stories don't mean every woman will regret getting married. But it's a reminder to go into it with open eyes and an open heart. If you're not married yet, take the time to really know yourself and your partner. If you're married and you're feeling some of the regrets, remember that it's never too late to course correct. Okay? So, what do you think? Have you ever experienced any of these feelings, or do you know someone who has it? Let's talk about in the comment section. Okay, I would love to hear from you. So, a lot of women like they do regret. So, let me tell you, because everyone gets excited, no, he has engaged me and all that. So, this is when someone has engaged you or they have put a ring on your finger. This is when you're going to be figuring out, is this a correct man? Like, don't close your eyes, open your eyes. This is the time to open your eyes, guys. If I were you, I would open my eyes. I see any red flags about this person. If he's over controlling, meaning he won't change in marriage, you'll be just a stay at home mom. Because I heard stories where women had good careers, they were working good jobs, they're making good amount of money. But when they married that man, they told them to stop. Okay, and they start depending on him. Everything they start depending. They don't even have their own bank account. Okay, so you need to think as a woman, what if this marriage doesn't work out? Where am I going to start from? So don't quit your job. If you have a job, continue working. Okay, you can have kids, you can raise your kids. I know we also want to raise our kids in a very beautiful way, want to raise them alone, but please, if you have any chance in this world, work, because men are going to respect you when they know that you're going to make your own money. They're not going to mistreat you. Once they know this person has their own money, she can move from here anytime, any nonsense. She can move anytime and rent her apartment. So they're going to give you some respect with that. So when you just depend on him, they will do whatsoever because they know you stick to him because you don't have where to go. Okay. And you guys will say, no, I'm saying because of your kids. Are you going to be unhappy your whole life? Okay. I know it's a very hard decision, but things if are not working, they're not working. You can't keep forcing. That's the truth. You can't keep forcing. The more you force, the more you keep hurting yourself. Okay, so you also have to consider your own happiness. It's really important. As much as you are married to this person, put yourself first. This is my rule number one. I always put myself first. Anyone who comes is second. Okay, so I give room of disappointment. I give room for anything because I know everyone is not perfect and everyone can make their own things there. But if it doesn't align with my values, then we are done. Because the things which I tolerate and things which I don't tolerate. Or when it comes to relationship, because you don't have to cross my boundaries. Okay. So I hate stories where women, no, my husband broke my phone. Really? So I just look at you. Can someone just break your phone? Hmm? Because me, if you touch my phone, you've crossed my boundaries. You My husband bought me the phones, but he can't touch them. For what? When we quarrel, why touching my phone? We've quarreled the two of us. Don't touch my phone. Yeah, so that's the thing, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate. I'll see you in my next episode, guys.